Hi everyone, and thanks for the invite today. Hopefully, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give you a little bit of a whistle stop tour that challenge some conventional thinking and leaves you with some more knowledge and a lot more curiosity. The personal care industry explores different ways to reduce single-use waste. Reusable packaging concepts are gaining traction with brands and consumers. And, listening to Nicholas's presentation beforehand, anything that happens within that luxury market always then comes down to, the everyday consumer products that we use. And at Beauty Kitchen, sustainability has always been front of mind for us. It's the reason why I started the business to begin with. Now I'm using this remote, so let's see if it works. Hey, brilliant. Next slide. So as we know that the consumer and sustainability, it's a movement. It is here to stay. It's not a trend. And we know that sustainable is the new natural. We know for businesses that they are working on how they can make that a commercial reality. And we know that every business will be using it as a marketing opportunity for their products, and any small change that they make, they will want to have the biggest impact. But there is a problem here. We're a growing population of consumers. And I think the figures are that it's 200,000 people. We will be 8 billion people very soon. And that's not going to change, it's going to continue. However, we have limited resources. So even if we consume these at a slower rate, it just postpones the inevitable. Products must be designed in the right way to use rapidly renewable resources and keep other resources in closed cycles. And that's really what I'm excited about today. So the next couple of slides is just giving some background into cradle to cradle principles and how Beauty Kitchen has used these to bring future-proof, not just our business, but hopefully give you some cues from a packaging development perspective. So if we look at what our mission is at Beauty Kitchen, we're here to pioneer change and make it available to the masses. But as always in any industry, there's a lot of dispersion and confusion, about what sustainability is, because it's very complex and it means very different things to different people. And how do we actually get the biggest impact? So Beauty Kitchen is a small, fast-growing business, and we're growing, at a great rate. But the impact that we can make as a business is very small in comparison to, say, a Unilever or a L'Oreal or a Procter & Gamble, if we look at personal care. So what we also want to do at Beauty Kitchen is we want to demonstrate what is possible on a global level, on a scalable level, and on a profitable level. So everything that we do, we're doing it for Beauty Kitchen, but also as a demonstration to other businesses about what is actually possible. And that's where, for me, it's an exciting time for the packaging industry, because when it comes to reusable packaging, that's not really something that has had a major focus for quite a long time. And I would like us to be doing more good stuff than just less bad stuff. So, I'm not going to talk a lot about plastic, today, but if we think about plastic and whether it's recycled or whether it has an element of recycle to it, really that is just being less bad. What we want to do is demonstrate how you can actually be more good. And the packaging industry is a focus for this. Let me just move slides. So this year, what we did is we redesigned every one of our products using cradle to cradle principles. We want our products to be more like trees. where they absorb CO2, produce oxygen, use renewable energy, create microclimates and ecosystems, purify water and nourish the soil. I mean, is that really possible from packaging? Is it really possible from beauty products? I think it is. We looked at all of the less bad options. They were the easy path for us to take. However, we exist to pioneer change, to show what is possible, but what is still commercially viable. And that's really important to us. And interestingly, products designed in this way have a higher quality and they don't necessarily need to cost more, which I think is a really interesting concept. We're talking about packaging here as an asset, yeah, not as a disposable part of the consumer product. So, what is Cradle to Cradle? Right, this is the big question. I'm just keeping my notes here so I stick to time, guys. But if you look at this chart, there's two parts to Cradle to Cradle. There's the technical cycle and there's the biological cycle. But if I come back to beauty, why do you buy a bottle of body wash? What are you actually buying? You want to buy the body wash that's in the bottle. This is the biological cycle. It's the ingredients that are from a biological source, and at the end of their use, they go down the drain and they go back into that biological cycle. The bottle is part of the technical cycle. It is a service. It's not a consumable. The consumer doesn't want it, but it uses, it uses our valuable resources because it needs to be made. So it needs to be designed to stay within that technical cycle. And this can be applied to every product that you make or that consumers buy, whether it's the chair that you're sitting on, the carpet that's in your room, or the building. It can be related to anything. But is it the technical cycle or the biological cycle? And how does that work logistically? So this is how we've done it at Beauty Kitchen. We've designed products using cradle to cradle principles and our return, refill, repeat service. The biological cycle is on the right, and this is the consumption area. It's only natural ingredients that can return to the soil to then be grown into more ingredients. The technical cycle in the centre is the service of return, refill, repeat. And this is where the packaging gets returned to Beauty Kitchen. It is then washed and it's then reused. So we are eliminating the red and massively reducing the amber that's on this infographic. And ultimately, we would want everything to be green. But as we know with sustainability, it's a bit like your own fitness. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And it's about nudging the dial. And that's what was great about the previous presentation. We could see some real innovation in how packaging was tackled from a variety of different categories and how that packaging actually stays within the circular economy. And that's really what interests me. So I'm just moving the slide. So what is return, refill, repeat? Well, in this disconnected world, what we need is new thinking to reach better decisions and build for the future. The beauty industry has lagged behind this conversation, and the reason is the lack of choice in packaging solutions. So it was great to see some great examples from Nicholas's presentation. We will demonstrate over the next few slides how packaging companies can innovate and design the future for real change, not just within the beauty industry. This is stuff that can happen in lots of different categories. And using packaging as an asset, which, you know, hasn't really been to the fore, but it can be now because the infrastructure is starting to be in place to have reusable packaging that works for everyone. And that means that when it's in the technical cycle for cradle to cradle, rather than it being recycled and it just being a cheap commodity, it's something that holds value to companies, but it also holds value to consumers. Not just the value in the product that they initially buy, but their own CSR support. Everyone is now thinking, how can I support sustainability? How can I be more good? How can I be a more sustainable consumer? So some of this stuff I know the guys will have seen before because you've been in the packaging industry for a long time. Refillable packaging. I mean, looking at the milkman model, you know, we are really going back to the future here. But what we want to do is we want to make the packaging contemporary for today's consumer. So our return, refill, repeat packaging, it can be returned to a partner retailer, it can be returned via a post system, and it's really designed for sustainability. But what we're looking for in terms of our packaging innovation is we've had to use fairly straightforward off-the-shelf packaging, and it would be great to see that dial nudged and push forward so that we can give different consumers different choice in the reusable packaging that Beauty Kitchen has. So the return, refill, repeat model, again with this infographic, what we're trying to do in terms of the key insights here is that packaging is definitely an asset and it's part of the technical cycle. We then also have refill stations. So these are stations that are actually out in retail stores to engage with consumers in how they can reuse their packaging and be part of the circular economy. The product range and consumer choice at the moment is limited with the refill station because you've only got a certain amount of size out in a retail store. But what it does is it engages the consumer in that journey and makes it easy for them to understand. So the solution for us at Beauty Kitchen, and we're on that journey, is that we plan to launch over 1,000 refill stations across the UK. There will be a limited number of products available, but what that will then do is it will give the consumer access to many more products that would be available not just online, but would also be available in store. But it gets the consumer engaged with that reusability. Not only will it be Beauty Kitchen products that would be available, we are currently working with other brands for them to have their own refill stations, and we're working with some big brands within personal care. Press the move button. Yay! So we have two parts to this. We have the retail ready products that are in reusable packaging, and what happens is the consumer buys the product, they use the body wash, which is really what they should be paying for, and they return their empties to us. We then have set the standards because at the moment when we think of the new normal, we have to ensure that the safety of the packaging is at the highest level that it can be. And we have helped create those standards alongside Cradle to Cradle to ensure that safety. And then those bottles or jars are refilled and they're either sent back out to retailers or they're sent out direct to customers through the online. And then you have the refill stations where the consumer can actually refill in store. So for us, it's about packaging equals assets, which equals reuse. And that really means that you're wasting zero. So with regards to the refill station model, yeah, we have some examples of this that are already out in store. So we have the Beauty Kitchen one, but we also have ones that Ecover have had in Waitrose. We've had ones that are Faith in Nature, the Body Shop have them. But the difference with the Beauty Kitchen or the return, refill, repeat refill station is that it's fully automated. So when you're out in store, the customer is using an app and they're using a screen to be able to engage with the machine. And the only thing that they touch is their bottle that they would be taking away with them. And for me, that then creates what we are in terms of COVID friendly. So, return, refill, repeat. We wash and reuse our bottles. This fits into the circular economy and it also fits in with cradle to cradle principles. It gives consumers other options outside of single-use plastic within the beauty industry. But the great thing is that it's accessible to other brands and other categories. We're a very transparent open source organisation and we want to work with other people to help bring this to life to have the biggest impact. But we need the packaging industry to support us in giving us innovation within the reusable packaging part and for our refill stations. And that's really my ask of you guys today. So when I talk about the story so far, this is really what Beauty Kitchen has done in the last 12 months. We've gained Cradle to Cradle certification of all of our ingredients and packaging. We have 1,200 stores actively accepting empties nationwide across the UK, Ireland and Benelux. But we also have other stores that will have access to coming soon. We've developed an innovative washing technology that means cosmetic legislation requirements are adhered to, not just with the bottle washing that we have in for return, refill, repeat, but also for the refill stations. The refill stations actually comply fully with the cosmetic legislations for a manufacturing site for each refill station, which I just think is great. We have a pipeline of what could be perceived as competitor brands, but I think they're partner brands because they're ready to share the benefits and drive the consumer message on reusable packaging. And we have a pipeline of packaging innovations ready to be developed and shared, but we need more. And that's really why at the beginning of my presentation, I put the details to say, let's talk. And this is really what the next sort of 10 minutes will be about, is asking me sort of any questions, and hopefully I can give the answers. Thank you.
Joanne, thank you so much. It's an amazing story and an amazing set of innovations that you're bringing to the market. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
And I wish you every success for the future. There are a few aspects of this that I'm interested in and that we're receiving questions on. But I think if we can start off sort of at the beginning, a really nice question that we had. If I was running a small cosmetic brand on my own and I wanted to start on my refill journey, what would I do? Where would I start, and what's your advice for the things that I need to know?
Yeah, so I think if you're a small indie brand, what you focus in on is your point of difference, whatever that is. So whether that's your specific active ingredients, your sustainability message, whatever that is, it's a vegan certified brand, whatever that is, that's your focus. What we wanted to do by creating the return, refill, repeat program was to give anyone, irrespective of size, whether they are an indie brand through to a larger business, the opportunity to access refillable, reusable packaging. And that's where the return, refill, repeat program was created. It's powered by Beauty Kitchen, but it's a separate part to what we do. And it meant that we can get the biggest impact from as many people that want to go on that refill journey.
Okay. And you mentioned some big names who you're working with. What is I actually don't live in the UK, and I have not for the last year or so. So what is the actual process of returning the packaging? How does that work, and what are the processes? What happens?
Yeah, so there's two parts to it. If I take the refill station, which is an in-store refill, you would get your bottle, you would choose whatever, I think there's 6 options. So whether that's a body wash or a shampoo, and you would put your bottle in, a door would close, and your body wash would be dispensed, and then your label would actually be, given out, and you would take it to the till and pay for it.
Okay.
You would then have instructions of how to clean that. So if you think of a reusable coffee cup, it's a very, very similar idea that you're doing this with the refill station. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're using wash-off products, it's from a safety perspective, it's very easy to be able to clean the packaging that you have. And because you're reusing it as a consumer, then you would know how to do that. The separate part is our return, refill, repeat program. And what that means is, sorry, if I just grab something, if I have a product and I use it and it's empty, yeah, I can either go back to a store and I can give my empty, yeah, and then buy another off-the-shelf product that's filled, or I can send this with the free post label that's available to download through the Beauty Kitchen website and the Return Refill Repeat website, depending on, you know, if you're a Beauty Kitchen product or another product. And that empty packaging comes back to us in Scotland, and we have the bottle washing facility where we go through all of that cleaning of the packaging. The interesting thing about each piece of packaging is we are using a QR code, which means that we know exactly what has been in. We've a QR code for every single individual product. And I don't just mean SKUs, I mean every bottle, every piece of packaging. So we know exactly where that packaging has been. We know when it's been filled, when it's been returned, when it's been washed, and when it's been refilled and sent back out to store or sent back out to the consumer. So we have complete transparency. Not only that, the app, Return, Refill, Repeat, the customer will be able to look at that journey themselves so that they get engaged with that circular economy process. So they know exactly where their packaging has been as well, which I just think is will open up so many doors, not just for consumers, but for brands as well.
Amazing. And how many journeys through the cycle can one piece of packaging make?
Well, that's a great question. So it depends whether it's a brand new bottle that's just been filled. So if it's this one bottle, you've got, I think there's 6 parts to the customer journey before it is then sent back out to its next customer, if that makes sense. What we do have behind the scenes, which is for interesting reading, is we've done a life cycle analysis on each parts of our packaging to actually be able to demonstrate when the cutoff point is, not just from a CO2, but from an energy level, in how many reuses do you have to have that it means that this piece of packaging does better than either a single use plastic bottle, a recycled plastic bottle, or a plastic pouch. And, you know, what's been interesting for us is that glass, even though it's heavier, yeah, it still only needs to be reused once for it to actually offset anything else. And that just blows my mind.
Fascinating. It's milk bottles in the 70s all over again.
It is. I mean, it really is. But it's what we're trying to do is bring it into the digital age and make it contemporary. So we've got the QR codes, we've got the app, so it means that people can easily access that information. Whereas in the 70s, you basically trusted that the milkman cleaned the bottles as well as they should do.
Absolutely. And return, refill, repeat is going to be an important part of your messaging, of course. But what sort of level of take up or what sort of level of returns do you actually see for your products?
Yep. So we did a lot of research beforehand, and we were fortunate that here there's one of the largest soft drinks companies in the UK who ran a bottle deposit scheme for over 104 years, which is Iron Brew. If you're Scottish, you know it very well. And they really helped us to understand the customer journey because they'd been doing it for such a long time. And the uptake was still at 78% for them. The uptake that we've had initially has been in the 30%, but we're still at the very early stages. I mean, this was only launched in the last few weeks, and we've had such a response already. Not few weeks, sorry, few months, getting confused, few months. We've been blown away because we thought, if it's easier for somebody to put this in the recycling, than to return it, because there is a slight addition. You either need to take it back to store or you need to put it in an envelope and send it. But I think because of the sustainability messages at the moment in the media with regards to David Attenborough, the Blue Planet effect, and all that surrounded that, I think the everyday person is thinking, well, actually, it might just be a small thing, but I can do that and it's within my gift to do it, so I will. The other thing is they get rewards for sending the packaging back or taking the packaging back to store. So that always, there's an incentive to do
Okay,
it as well.
great. And what are the other communication methods that you, so you have an app, you have
Yep,
a reward scheme.
yep.
What sort of messaging are you putting out otherwise on, I'm thinking about on the labels, on your in-store, on the shelves and so on.
Yep.
What are the messages there?
So with the refill stations, that's fairly easy because everything is on the refill station in store and people can see that. When it comes to other everyday products, so this is quite a small product, we have our little return, refill, repeat logo and symbol that's on here, which was actually throughout the presentation. And you don't want to bombard people with too many messages, but the QR code has been the key, because as soon as the person scans that, it automatically pops into them in terms of on their mobile device or their laptop or iPad. But actually, it then gives them a call to action about what they need to do. The other piece is the in-store. So from an in-store perspective, there's a variety of everyday point of sale messages that we use, and also we use the reward scheme to be able to engage with the customer. And then obviously direct to consumer on our own website, it's everywhere. So, it will, don't get me wrong, it will take time, but we know it's the right thing to do. And the other interesting thing about our packaging is that even if at the worst stage it's not sent back and reused, it can be recycled. And we don't want that to happen, but at least it's still staying in somewhere within that cycle.
Sure, fantastic. We've got time for just one last question, Joanne, before we move on. And I have a few options. You mentioned that you have some innovations in the pipeline. I just wonder if you could. That's a bit of a teaser. Is there anything in 20 seconds that you could tell us about those?
Yeah, so the big one is compostability. But the challenge with that, as we all know, is that just because it's compostable doesn't mean to say that it gets compost, because there's a whole raft of misinformation, I think, and a lack of clarity on what does that actually mean. You might put it on your packaging, but what happens when the consumer gets that in their hands? So that is what we want to make sure, that when we launch that we get the message so that if it is compostable, it does get into the compost.
I think that's a very big challenge, and I wish you
Yeah.
every luck. Joanne, thank you so much for taking the time. It's wonderful to talk to you. Beautiful art in your home as well, and or in your office. And
It's the office.
speaking soon. Well, it's lovely. Thank you very much.